Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
And there goes Tim Walz comparing ICE to the Gestapo, which is patently false. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And by the way, this video is going to be a little bit different today. You're going to look at mostly me as I talk about Tim Walz and why what he's saying is so wrong, but more importantly, why he actually says it. We'll get to that part towards the end. Tim Walz just compared ICE to the Gestapo, which is patently false. ICE is simply arresting people in the country illegally, prioritizing the violent, criminal, illegal aliens first. ICE does not disappear people. ICE transfers people to a facility where they await trial, due process, and hopefully ultimately deportation. But ICE is absolutely not the Gestapo. Now, just to do a little bit of research on the comparison, let's talk about what the Gestapo actually did, which includes the murder of 6 million people during World War II. They arrested people, they tortured people, they experimented on people. Ultimately, they murdered more than 6 million people during World War II. They did disappear people. They committed genocide, and there is a definition of genocide, very clear definition of that. ICE is not committing genocide. The Gestapo engaged in mass killings. That is accurate for a description of what the Gestapo did, and there's a definition of mass killings. Again, that is absolutely not what ICE is doing. And quite frankly, it's beyond disgusting to make that comparison, not just because it's wrong, but because he's engaging in Holocaust denial. He's diminishing, by making that false comparison, what the Gestapo did to Jewish people, not just Jewish people, gypsies, intellectuals, politicians that agreed with the Nazi Party, etc. That denial diminishes, disrespects what those people went through. So it's wrong on so many levels. And just images to review what the Gestapo did. I mean, they rounded people up, sorted them out at train stations, sent them off to concentration camps, and you know the rest of the story. And those images, as distressing as they are relevant because when making a comparison to what the Gestapo did to what he's accusing ICE of at being modern day Gestapo, it's ludicrous. That is not what ICE is doing. But for me, the issue goes beyond that. And the issue with Tim Walz is, why is he doing this and his patent inconsistency? I mean, Tim Walz is I want to say he's a comical character, but he's not, because he's dangerously effective in what he does, which is creating emotional hate for this country and what it stands for. I mean, Tim Walz is kind of a clumsy fellow. This is the guy who tried to be the man's man and did a video shoot with him going bird hunting with a shotgun, and he couldn't even figure out how to load the shotgun. I mean, clearly he's fake. He's a poser. He's so often pretending to be something he is not, and he gets caught red-handed. I mean, most recently there was a video with him playing a football game, a computer football game, and he didn't know what the hell he was doing. This guy is a coach. Okay, and he called a pass play a pick six. It was not a pick six. I don't like the NFL. It's so politicized, I can't stand it. But even I know the difference between a regular pass play and something that turns into a pick six. Apparently, Tim Walz, coach, doesn't even understand that difference. So he is a clumsy fellow. But why is he effective, or as effective as he is? Because he's very good at creating hate and discontent. He's also incredibly inconsistent. Here's a guy that cannot stand ICE. He compares it to the Gestapo, yet he loves China. And why bring up China? Well, he loves China. I mean, he had a business where he took people to China on these tours of China and educational trips to China. He has said more often than we can count how he thinks we should have a better relationship with China, trade deals with China, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Guy loves China. His wedding, his anniversary, the important dates in his life were either at China or coincided with important events that occurred in China, like the Tiananmen Square anniversary, where there was a brief uprising of good Chinese people and it was absolutely squashed. And he has personal events in his life that he has coordinated and timed around the celebration of those events. The man is a huge China fan. And what's the problem with that? Will allow me to elaborate. So put up some pictures here in a little bit, but you need to understand that China, after World War II, had a Marxist communist revolution. During that Marxist communist revolution, there's some numbers up on the screen right now, the Chinese Marxist communists murdered more of their own people, more than 60 million people of their own people, than everybody that was killed during World War II. And that should terrify everybody. So basically, this country that Tim Walz loves so much murdered 10 times the number of people that the Gestapo did. He hates the Gestapo. He associates ICE with the Gestapo, but he loves China. But the Chinese Marxist communists murdered 10 times the number of people that the Gestapo murdered. I mean, the man at the surface is pathetically inconsistent. And I hope that point makes sense. But it doesn't just stop with, the tens of millions of people, their own people, that the Chinese Marxist communists murdered. It doesn't stop there. Because if you go to the present day, hopefully most of you understand that the Chinese have modern day equivalents of concentration camps for an ethnic minority that they don't like at all. I mean, literally camps, re-education camps, whatever the Chinese want to call them, they're concentration camps. They're huge gated facilities with electric fences, barbed wire, concertina wire, guard towers, you name it. And that's where they stick these ethnic minority people that they murder, torture, disappear. And there's some images. There's a huge number of them being rounded up, zooming in so you can see what's happening to these people. And then, yes, they go to these camps and yes, they are tortured. That's happening today. Okay, not as in 10 years ago, 50 years ago. No, that is going on today. That's no secret. Everybody needs to understand that. And it gets again to the inconsistency with Tim Walz. He hates ICE, associates with Gestapo, but he loves Marxist Communist China. The China today under Xi is the same exact China under Mao that murdered tens of millions of people. You understand that. And he loves that. And the question is why? And I would simply state that if Tim Walz would be a man and be honest and simply say that he is a cultural Marxist, I'd actually respect him a little bit, fundamentally disagree with him, but I would respect him for being honest and open about what he believes in. And if he said that, then his support of China makes sense because it is a Marxist communist country. It would all make sense. Of course, he doesn't say that because he's Tim Walz. So why does he say what he says? It's because he's a cultural Marxist. I promise you, the man loves critical theory. Everybody, I hope, understands that critical theory came from Marxists that came to this country in the mid-1930s. I'm going to put a picture of a book up that you need to read so you understand how cultural Marxism came to the country, who brought it here, where they came from, what they did while they were here. These people that settled into the U.S. brought us cultural Marxism, created critical theory in the late 1930s, which is not a theory at all, but a mandate to criticize via the creation of oppressor and oppressed groups. That is what Tim Walz is good at. That's why to the Democrat Party, he is a useful idiot. He floundered horribly as the vice president. He'll never be VP. He'll never be president. But to the Democrat Party, he is definitely useful because he's very good at creating emotional hate and discontent for this country and what it stands for. And the whole goal is to destabilize the country, the culture, in this case, the United States. He He's not as good as Barack Obama at all. I think we all agree with that. But he is effective. I mean, the man's the governor of one of our states. Safe state for him to be governed as a Democrat state. But nonetheless, that is why he's doing this. He knows it's patently false, but he's smart enough to understand that what he's doing is creating an emotional response in the audience. He wants to get fired up and absolutely despise conservatives, whether it's Donald Trump, Republicans in Congress, Republicans in the state of Minnesota, it doesn't matter. He wants those people to get so emotionally fired up by making comparisons to the Gestapo that those people stop thinking. You cannot have a functional debate with somebody that makes decisions on emotions. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get their minds so emotionally invested in what he's preaching that those people are not capable of listening any longer. And therefore, they just enable him and the Democrat Party to continue doing what they're doing, which is destabilizing everything that we believe in. That's why he does that. So I'll put a picture of the book up again, because I think it's so important that people understand where this ideology came from. Once you understand where critical theory, DEI, critical race theory, it's all Marxism, it's all cultural Marxism. Once you understand what it is, you'll recognize it. Once you recognize it, you understand and can effectively counter it. And the argument goes something like this. When you come across these people, you just ask them, how long have you been a Marxist? And they'll say, well, I'm not a Marxist. Well, you love critical theory, don't you? Well, yeah, critical theory, great. You believe in inequalities of outcome? Yes, I do. Okay, great. That's all critical theory. That's all Marxism. Just understand that I don't like Marxism. Okay, I love my country. I love our constitutional republic. I understand the value of capitalism, how it works. I like equal justice under the law. I love all these things. And Marxism doesn't want to get along with that. It wants to destroy it. I love my country, and I'm not going to let Marxism do that. So you as a Marxist, I have no interest in engaging in conversation with. Get out of here. And quite frankly, those people don't belong in politics. They don't belong in universities teaching kids how to think that way. But at any rate, read the book so you can understand what the political and I would say cultural Marxist left of this country, the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, Tim Walz, what these people are doing and why. Once you understand that, you're much more effective at, quite frankly, defeating it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'd love to see comments. What do you think about what Tim Walz did, why he said what he did? What do you think about cultural Marxism, the effect it has in the country? Do you understand that critical theory is Marxism? Have you bought the book? Have you read the book? Let me know in the comment section down below, because this is a very important topic that we all need to get smarter on. And part of getting smarter is education, and part of education is reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more like this? Subscribe. And if you know anybody else that's interested, by all means, share it with them. And as always, until next time, God bless. Love y'all.